All right, how's it going? I'm Dustin. This is my origin story as it pertains to making replica movie props. Let's get into it. All right, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Dustin, just like the name of my channel here. I make replicas of movie props. If that's something you're interested in, maybe you should subscribe. The rest of you can like this or comment. Tell me your origin stories. I would love to see people get involved with this, put out their own. Maybe we can find things in common with each other instead of things that tear us apart. We're in some divisive times right now, so maybe focusing on the things that are positive and bring us together instead of tear us apart is the route we should be taking. Anyways, what we're going to be doing in this video, we are going to be talking about kind of my history a little bit, kind of touching on what led me into finding the RPF and joining, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some of my accomplishments as a prop builder and a few notable items and stuff like that, and we're going to talk about the YouTube channel. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan. Ever since I was a little kid, I did get to see Return of the Jedi in the theater when it was originally released. I remember Jabba scaring the hell out of me, just freaking me out. I remember my mom calming me down in the parking lot. I was crying and just freaking out about Jabba. I want to say I was in junior high when the Thrawn trilogy books came out that Timothy Zahn wrote, the original ones. Read those each as they came out. My mom was purchasing them for me as each one was released, and I just gobbled them up. Couldn't get enough. It was like pouring gas on the fire. I was just like, oh my God, Star Wars. And I've always been like kind of a hands-on sort of crafty person. I liked building model kits, like just making toys and stuff like that. I think we all had a flashlight that we pretended was a lightsaber, and we'd swing it around, and who doesn't do that? I mean, seriously. All right, so that leads us up to me joining the RPF. What was going on in my life to make me go and want to build props and join the RPF? I just bought this house, the house that I'm in now. Probably been in the house for, 6 months or so. And I was in a failing relationship, so I found myself with a little extra time on my hands and a little extra money because I wasn't, going out, whining and dining with the girlfriend. And so I was just sitting upstairs in my office, and my office and my entire house was pretty much empty and very, very quiet, and it's just a little weird. So I felt like I needed something to focus on, but I had this memory from when I was a kid pop back up into my brain. I was at the mall, and we went into this hobby store. It had this glass counter, where like the cash register was. Inside that glass counter, there was a Millennium Falcon model that someone had built and painted up, and to me it just looked like the coolest thing in the world. I mean, I was just like, that's so cool. That's awesome. How do I do that? But that I never got around to actually building one because I was a little kid and I couldn't afford the expensive Star Wars model kits. I could just get the cheap car model kits or an occasional battleship one, but I could never seem to scrape the cash together or have the patience to save my money to buy one of the Star Wars model kits. So anyways, this thought pops into my head, about this memory, and I'm like, I should build a model kit of the Millennium Falcon. So I start doing my research, looking up the model kits that are available. There's basically two different ones. There's the NPC, there's the fine molds. The fine molds is way more expensive, way more detailed. It has its flaws. The NPC is way cheaper. It's less detailed. A lot of the details are really soft. There's some things I got right. There's some things I got wrong. But, me just getting into the hobby, $250 for a fine molds kit was pricey. I was like, I don't know, because I still need to buy an airbrush, and I still need to buy the glue and the model kit and the paint and, all these things. I don't know that an extra $200 on top of that is in the budget. So anyways, I'm doing my research. I'm looking for reference photos, trying to find good matches for the paint colors and stuff like that. But I kept winding up on this website called the RPF. hadn't joined. I just was, searching. It just kept coming up. And then one day I'm reading through this thread about the Millennium Falcon, and someone asked this question, and I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember it. I haven't been able to find the post. But they were asking, was the NPC Millennium Falcon used in Empire Strikes Back like the NPC X-Wings were? And my brain went, wait, what? The NPC X-Wing was used in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? Hold on a second. Change of plan. I'm going to build an X-Wing instead of a Millennium Falcon. Just so you know, the answer was no, they did not, use the NPC Millennium Falcon in Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. Although it was apparently used for some animatics for the asteroid scene, I believe is the one for the Millennium Falcon that they used, the NPC one. And I think Prop Store had that animatics NPC Millennium Falcon up for sale not too long ago, which was really cool to see. I think I saved some photos of it, but yeah, they just basically, if you don't know what an animatic is, it's think of it as like a rough draft or a sketch before you build the final product. They crudely put together a ship, they put it on a stick, they put some fake, wads of paper or whatever on for asteroids, and they just use someone to hold it and swoop it through the frame to simulate what the shot might look like. So they get an idea that way when they get the real thing, the actual filming models and build the full sets and everything like that, they kind of know how they're going to frame the shots and work out those details before they actually shoot it. So that's what an animatic is, if anybody didn't know. The NPC X-Wing. So my gear's changed because the NPC X-Wing, a lot cheaper. Why don't I say a lot cheaper? We're talking about a $20 kit versus a $40 kit, so it's about half the price. I was able to actually do a little research and digging, and I found an auction listing for the NPC X-Wing that had been one of them that had been built and shot in the films. And I had 4 photos of it total from the auction listing. At the time, I didn't realize how off the shape and proportions were of the NPC to the Hero and Pyro models that were a much larger scale, the 1/24th scale. Pretty different. Paint jobs are actually very different as well. At the time, I didn't know enough about the heroes and the pyros and the NPCs to discern there's a huge difference between them. I was just grabbing whatever photos I could find, and they were scattered, and I didn't know if one thing was a hero or an NPC or a pyro or what. And so that led me to, I'm going to build this X-Wing. Wings, S-foils open in attack position, and the NPC did not have any of the detail, between the wings, and so I had to sit there and scratch build all that stuff. Later, I realized that the NPC X-Wing, they are not built with their wings open. They're all built with the wings closed. I did later go back and build another NPC X-Wing with the wings closed for a model contest, and I have a much more accurate paint job on that. It's not perfect, and I'm probably going to build it again because I actually have several NPC X-Wings I've bought over the years. All right, so that's what that post made me join the RPF. That post about the NPC X-Wing, that is the catalyst that got me to join the RPF officially, right then and there. I was like, I got to be a part of this. Sign me up. So, while this is going on, I'm starting to build this X-Wing. It's super detailed, and I'm customizing this thing in a level that was never done by the studio, trying to match the details of the hero models onto an NPC X-Wing that's got really soft details and just missing things, and the proportions are wrong, and I'm just fighting with this thing. It's a lot of really small, delicate work because it's not a very big model. Then my relationship ends, and I cannot do delicate work. I'm just not in the mental state. I don't have the patience. I'm just angry and bitter and mad and just, all the adjectives that describe a relationship ending. I was that. So I put it to the side, but I'm still loving what I'm seeing on the RPF. I decided at that point, you know what? I should get a lightsaber. And I'm like, well, I think I'm going to go for a Graflex. I think I'm going to go for the A New Hope Luke's Graflex. And I find one. I purchase it. It comes in. I'm obsessed with it. Like, I cannot stop playing with it. I cannot stop looking at it. It just is consuming my life. You know, like this is the coolest thing about it. It looks so real. It looks so perfect. And like, even though it had like really bad T-tracks that were like really wrong profile and a fake bubble strip, and the D-ring at the time, we didn't know what we know now about the D-ring, but I didn't think the D-ring was right, and it's not right. It's still wrong. I just haven't bothered to change it. But it still just had this presence to it that I could just pick it up and switch it on and it would actually work. Like, it looks exactly like what you see in the movie. And I couldn't stop. And that kind of became, oh, maybe I should get a blaster. Maybe I should get an Obi-Wan saber. Maybe, I went berserk after that. Like, I went crazy. Still wrong. But, oh my gosh. So much presence. Just still gets me. Next up is probably the thing that people probably know me the most for. It's what started my YouTube channel, and that's probably why people know me the most for, is the Hales grenade. I bought a Hales grenade from an RPF member. It was in relic condition. It was rough. This one right here. It's still rough, but it's stable, and it doesn't look like it's covered in burnt cheese anymore. It was just covered in rust and who knows what. I mean, just globs of stuff. Pretty gross, actually, looking. But that led me to doing a bunch of research on how do I clean something like this up, and I couldn't find anybody that had done this before. I couldn't find any threads, or, my research didn't lead me anywhere. So then I started to broaden it, like, how do I do iron and steel? How do I restore something that's of that material? Led me to electrolysis and dealing with the bronze, or the brass parts as well. How do I clean that up? Just kind of my own knowledge of science and metals, which are quite limited, especially back then. And yeah, I basically decided, if I'm doing all this research, if I'm doing all this homework, I should share this, because I know that this is not going to be the only Hales grenade that's in bad condition. Someone else might want to do what I'm doing, and I should share this information. People are out there doing research and sharing information on there all the time. I feel like I should be a part of that. And the format for me being a video was, I didn't really want to make a video, but I felt like it was the correct format. I could show, the whole progress, not just a few pictures here and there. I feel like there's a lot of information that can be left out of just with pictures. So if I can talk and show things as things are happening, video just seemed like the right choice. That being said, I was like, well, if I'm going to make a channel, I'm going to put some boundaries on it. I don't want to be a how-to channel. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It just wasn't my flavor. I feel like there's more than one way to do things, especially in this hobby. You could do things a dozen different ways, and they're all correct. And so I just didn't want to get into the how-to space. I also wanted to be more like casual, more about my progress, my projects. I also wanted it to be kind of educational for myself, and I also needed to be having fun. If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do it. So the educational part, that could be anything. It could be me learning how to do something like restore a Hales grenade. It could be me learning editing software, how to do color correction, how to do sound mixing, how to do all these different things. There's so many things that I've learned doing this. And that was really important, that I constantly try to keep learning through making videos, whether it be the video's content or me experimenting with editing, cameras, equipment, whatever. So that led me to building or restoring several Hales grenades and MG81s and lots of other projects, lots of commissions. Commissions was never something I really wanted to do. I actually had to be talked into it. There's a few people that reached out to me multiple times saying, hey, can you do this? And I probably just ignored it. I apologize to anybody who thought I was being a prick. I just didn't have any real interest in doing commissions at the time. Ian actually talked me into it, and I was still very reluctant. Next up, I want to talk about is the Millennium Falcon Landing Gear foot that I purchased from Prop Store. It is not a replica. It is production made, production painted. It was for Empire Strikes Back, the landing scene of the Millennium Falcon at Bespin in Cloud City. I guess when they did the landing, it was the 5-footer. When they did the takeoff, because it twisted and turned before it left, they switched to the 3-foot model. But that Millennium Falcon foot is one of the rear pairs. So on the Millennium Falcon, I have a little tiny one here for demonstration purposes. There are multiple feet. There's the front ones, there's the 2 sides, then there are the rear pairs. You can see there's 2. Mine, the one that I own, of the 5-foot, is the front of one of the rear pairs. Very randomly, I was on Facebook, I think, and a guy started talking about how he purchased one of the Millennium Falcon feet. So I reached out to him like, hey, I have one of these too. You know, which one do you have? And he's like, I have the rear of the one of the rear pairs. So he's got the mate, essentially, the back one to the front one that I have. And I was like, that's so crazy. That's so random. You know, like, how do you just happen to be on the internet at the same place? You know, I see this and we make this connection and we've become friends and we've actually exchanged gifts and stuff like that. The final thing I want to talk about is this. This is the keypad that you see inside of the X-Wing when it fires the proton torpedoes at the Death Star. And it was a piece that I discovered myself. So I actually was the one who figured out what calculator this was and presented that to the RPF. What got me on that hunt was there's a member called Wavy. He was building he had a thread where he's making this X-Wing control stick. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I click on it, I'm reading through, and then he makes a joke about the one with the keypad. And I'm looking at the photos and looking at all the other reference photos he posted. I'm like, this is a totally different prop. This is completely different. And so I'm like, wait a second, like, what? Has anybody done anything on this? So I start looking at this thing and I'm like, I think I can find this keypad and some of these parts, you know, like they look familiar. And so I start off looking on eBay, just hunting through vintage calculators. And I come across the TI 3000. And I'm like, it was upside down. The keypad was essentially upside down to what you see in the movie. It was like that, as opposed to that. This is how it is in the X-Wing. That's how it is on the calculator. And I'm like, wait a second, that's the pattern. That's the pattern of the keys, flipped upside down. So I order one, it comes in, I take it apart, it matches, perfect, like dead on. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the one, that's the thing. So then I start going through trying to find the rest of these things. I find this lens, this kind of light sensor lens thing. There's still some debate on which is the correct one. We haven't found a perfect match there yet. These things, which are like a coaxial like connector thing, I think it's like a PL256 or something. I don't remember the exact number on it. I think they might actually be like a sleeve bearing because I don't see the threading at the base of it. There's the red button, which is also the same thing over here, except this is in white. So you got the red one over here. Those are used on rank badges for the Imperials. I think they're also used on some Rebels. I can't remember. And then there's the big switch that's on the side, which is used on like X-Wing pilots. I think Vader's chest box. And you see them all over Star Wars. You see them on, you know, control panels and whatnot. And then Wavy, that guy Wavy, he actually got on the thread and he's like, after some time, he actually discovered the piece that's actually the control stick that mounts to the keyboard, mounts to the base. And so a few people have actually been able to track them down. I have not been able to get one myself. I really want one bad, but so far I don't have one. Maybe I'll get a replica one if someone makes a replica. That'd be pretty sweet. But that is my contribution to the RPF as far as like a found part goes. This is still kind of a work in progress. It's not totally done, but I love the way it looks, and I got to put the dots on the things again and find a stick for it. But super stoked that I was able to contribute. That's kind of my origin story, if you will, of my time being on the RPF. A little bit about me. I hope that some of you guys will do something similar. You don't have to do a video. You could make it just a thread. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put a thread on the RPF for origin stories. If anybody wants to put one up there, you don't have to make it a video. You can just type it out. You can take some pictures, share with us some of your accomplishments, some of the things you're most proud of. Maybe if you have some like details about like what brought you to the RPF, you know, maybe other people will find that and you'll see something in common with each other and start some new friendships with people maybe you hadn't made connections with yet. Anyways, that's my hope. I'll see you guys in the next video. Later.